Bluebird and the Spider. It was a cold day. Icy winds swept through the forest, and the evergreen trees sparkled with a fresh glaze of frost. Winter was here, and all the animals could sense it. "It's almost time! Today's the day!" the birds chirped cheerily to one another. But one small young bluebird wasn't quite as cheery as the rest. "Migration day is today?" he asked. "Of course! The south awaits, young fellow," a plump old bird replied from a nearby branch. "I just thought I'd have more time," the young bluebird said. "Aren't you excited?" a pretty bird tweeted from the branch below him. "Your first migration is always the best one. That's a fact," she said, smoothing out her feathers. "Absolutely true," a puffy-chested bird agreed, swooping down onto the pretty bird's branch. "I remember my first migration day perfectly. It was a wonderful day." The birds continued to chatter cheerily amongst themselves. But the young bluebird wasn't listening. He flew off his branch and away from the other birds to find some place he could be alone. "I can't believe winter's come so soon," he said to himself. "I knew it was coming, but I just thought it would take longer to get here." He ruffled his feathers, shaking away the chilly air as he flew. "What's in the south anyway? Why can't we just stay here where we belong? I wish winter didn't have to come at all." He watched the other forest animals from above as they prepared for the cold months ahead. The squirrels added the final touches to their winter nests. The rabbits retreated to the warm underground. The forest felt like it was slowly closing its eyes. Wait, what if winter didn't have to come? What if there's a way to stop it? The young bluebird thought to himself. "That's it," he said. "If I stop winter, we won't have to leave home at all. I'm sure there must be someone in this forest who knows something that could help me. But I have to find them quickly." The young bluebird flapped as fast as his wings could carry him to find his answer. He started his search near the forest's lake. He knew well that fish were the chattiest of creatures, so he felt it only proper to start with them. "Excuse me, but I was wondering if any of you knew how to stop the winter." The young bird asked the fish as he hovered above the water. But the fish couldn't hear him through the layer of ice that had begun to cover the lake. So, the young bird decided to look for answers elsewhere. He flew until he spotted a small red squirrel scurrying about on the forest floor. "Hello. Good morning. Sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering if you knew anything about how to stop the winter," the young bird asked the squirrel. But the squirrel was far too busy collecting the final touches for her winter nest to listen to the young bird. So, the young bird went on his way. He flew even deeper into the forest until he came across a large cave. The young bird was afraid to enter at first, but he knew he needed to ask as many different creatures as he could if he wanted to find his answer. So, he puffed out his small chest, took a deep breath, and flew inside. When he entered the den, he saw a family of brown bears cuddled together warmly. A large mother bear and her two small cubs. In his most cautious tone, he whispered, "Excuse me, I hate to bother you while you're sleeping. I know you must be very tired, but would you happen to know anything about how to stop the winter?" But the bear's eyes stayed tightly shut, and it seemed as though nothing would wake them. So, the young bluebird left the cave and had no choice but to be on his way. "No one will help me," the young bluebird sighed in disappointment. He didn't want to lose hope, but he knew he didn't have much time left, and all the other creatures had little time to listen to a young bluebird's questions. The winds were growing stronger, and he could feel the winter chill growing colder. "Please," he begged the forest. "I don't know what to do." The young bluebird waited for a sign, but nothing came. Just the constant whistle of the wind through the trees. "I can't give up now," he whispered to himself. So, he continued to fly hastily through the forest. He wasn't sure exactly what he was looking for or where he was going, but he refused to give up his search. Suddenly, a strong gust of icy wind blew in his direction. The young bird flapped his wings hard to fight against the current. He flapped and flapped with all his strength, but grew tired very quickly. The wind blew so hard he had no choice but to find shelter. The young bluebird spotted a nearby oak tree. It was twisted and gnarled and looked quite unpleasant, but he was far too exhausted to fly any further. So, he swooped inside the dim tree hollow, only for him to crash into something wispy and sticky. The string-like stickiness got all over his beak and wings. "My, what are all these sticky white strings on me?" the young bird asked himself as he lifted his blue wings to examine the stuff. "Well, that was my web." The young bluebird heard a voice like a silver bell. He turned to see a small spider. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I didn't know anybody lived here," the young bird apologized. "It's all right," the spider said kindly. She began to climb about gracefully and weave fresh strands of white gossamer silk to the inside of the hollow. "What are you doing?" the young bird asked the spider. "I'm making a new web," she said. "Oh," the young bluebird replied. "You work very quickly," the young bird said in admiration. "Thank you," the spider smiled. The webbing sparkled like a snowflake in the making. "Shouldn't you be with the other birds, all flying south for the winter?" the spider asked, working diligently. "Oh, I'm not going south this winter," he said. "Really? Why not?" the spider asked. "Well, see, it's complicated. I'm afraid to fly south," the little bird confessed, quite embarrassed. "Afraid? Why are you afraid? You can't be afraid of what is meant for you," the spider said. "What do you mean?" the young bluebird asked, puzzled. "Well, the snow isn't afraid to fall. Winter isn't afraid to arrive. So, you shouldn't be afraid either," the spider told him. "The winter always comes. It's meant to come. So, if it is meant to come, then it can only mean that you are meant to go." The bluebird thought. "But why would the winter want me to go?" he asked. "I've done nothing wrong." The spider chuckled warmly. "The going isn't a punishment, young one. Quite the opposite. Most creatures would be quite envious if they knew what lay ahead of you." "But why?" the bluebird asked. "Well, you see, if the winter never came, the birds would never have needed to fly south. They would never know what lies beyond the great forest, like so many other creatures. They would never know the warmth of the southern sun or the feel of its new wind beneath their wings. The going is a gift the gracious winter brings each year." "I suppose I never thought of it that way," the bluebird said. "Well, blessings often come in unexpected forms. However, we spiders are gifted with understanding these complicated matters," she said kindly. "Well, I suppose I'd better get flying then. It is migration day today, and I don't want to be late." The young bluebird stretched out his blue feathers to the sun. "Thank you, lovely spider," the young bluebird said gratefully. "Young one, it is always my greatest pleasure to assist those in need, especially young bluebirds." The spider bowed her regal head, and the bluebird flew out the way he came. Your new web is beautiful, by the way, the young bluebird shouted back to her. The spider's delicate arm outstretched gracefully as she waved to the young bird from the hollow's edge. He flew as fast as his wings could carry him. The south awaited.